Okay, so here's a funny thing. I can't shut off the waiting room, so I'm just going to have to keep my eye on it. So Zoom changed a little bit where you either have to have a waiting room or a passcode to get in. So I thought I outsmarted it by taking off the passcode and putting on the waiting room so you guys wouldn't have the same trouble you had last year or last week, 2 weeks ago. But now I can't turn off the waiting room. So, but I will keep my eye on that. And I will start recording.
Okay.
All right. Good evening. It's Thursday, June 8th, 2023, 7:01 p.m. This is a meeting of the Select Board of Bolton, Massachusetts. First on our agenda is some ARPA funding requests, American Rescue Plan Act. And Mr. Don Lowe will walk us through the requests here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to give the overview of the first one, and then I'm going to let Jenny speak to the details since she pulled all the detail together. But currently, we have 300 clickers that we just used at annual town meeting. You know, the type that we just used at annual town meeting. We're prepping for special town meeting in the fall. So we got together internally, Pam Powell, Jen Marquis, Jenny, and me, to talk about how we could best position ourselves. And we felt, looking at the pricing options, that purchasing 200 more clickers to give us 500 would allow us to deal with any regular large meeting, you know, heavily attended meeting. But we also felt that for special town meeting, we probably should plan for 1,000. And as fate would have it, we have the exact same clickers that Harvard has, and they already have 500. So our 500 and their 500 would add up to 1,000. We have a verbal mutual agreement that if they have a large meeting coming up, they can borrow ours, we can borrow theirs. They're not in the Neshoba School District, so the chance of running into a meeting scheduled, town meeting scheduled the same day is almost nil. Currently, their annual town meeting is scheduled for Saturdays, and ours are always Mondays currently. So it seems like a really good approach to be able to do that. But I would like to let Jenny fill in the details there.
I actually think you did a nice job, and that in conjunction with the email that I put in the packet. Hopefully that answers all your questions, but I'm happy to respond to any questions you have.
So you're not asking for more money to buy. What the statement is that we can share with another town.
No, we're asking to buy 200 more.
All right.
So we'll have a total of 500.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's fine. Well, let me ask a question of the ones we have. Are they operated by battery at the moment?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a plan to put new batteries in those things?
I already ordered, well, we already received 2 boxes of the batteries. They're not used frequently, so the batteries should last a long time. But I plan to just keep up with having a backlog of batteries to bring to the meetings. And it's very easy. You just slide the back open, pop a new one of those disc batteries in. So if somebody finds theirs isn't working, that's probably the first thing we do before we replace the clicker.
Okay.
I had a quick question. Jenny, under the option C, it says that our 300 would be reprogrammed. What did that mean?
So the clickers that Harvard purchased are the next, like the next release of these clickers. So they're not compatible right now, but it's an easy thing for them to do to make them compatible. So Harvard agreed to change their numbering for us to make them work with ours. And this would allow us to make ours compatible with theirs.
Got
and
it.
That would be a permanent thing.
So
that would give us access to 1,000.
The total 1,000 will all be on the same system.
Yep, they'll all play nicely together.
Okay.
I think this is another great example of two towns working cooperatively together.
Yeah, and I'd like to give credit to Rebecca Buchaya, who is the one that sent out an email to a listserv of towns that she works with, and she was able to connect with Harvard and give me the lead, and I reached out.
That's great.
Okay, I'm fine with the plan.
Yeah, you mean that we have to, the 300 clickers we have has to be reprogrammed at a cost of almost $11,000?
No, that figure includes the reprogramming and the purchase, right? Yeah, so it's a total of 11,000 for the purchase of 200 of the new ones and reprogramming, and reprogramming of the 300 that we currently have. We could, and another option, if we weren't partnering with Harvard, is to purchase 200 of the same ones that we have, and then we would have 500 that played well together. I think that having the existing ones reprogrammed to work with Harvard is very forward thinking for the future of large meetings that could come down the pike, because I do believe 1,000 is more than we're going to need, but I also think 500 will probably not be enough.
Well, if you're going to buy 200 more, I doubt they're going to be delivered on the current level. Let's see, I would expect them to be delivered on the latest, highest level of the software. So we'd have to reprogram the 300 anyway.
We would have the option either way. They offered us the option either way. They could sell us 200 new at the I don't want to say level, but it's the
Revision, the software revision.
Exactly, software revision that our existing ones are at, or they can sell us 200 of the latest and reprogram the ones that we have.
Well, I guess just as a
Our
follow-up,
hand isn't forced.
how much is the reprogramming out of the 10,495? Is it just a couple $100, or is it a substantial portion of it?
I want to say it was 1,400. Does that sound right to you, Don?
So-
You're better at
It does.
remembering numbers than me.
It does. It was over $8,000 just for the additional 200 clickers.
Well, no, option A says buy 200 additional clickers and the cost is $7,000. And the
No,
purchase
that
doesn't-
includes a rental of 500. Because
No.
we need 1,000. Option A definitely includes the rental of an additional 500.
No, option A says the cost is $7,000 to purchase and $5,000 for the rental.
Oh, yeah,
So to buy 200 additional clickers is
Then it-
7,000,
yeah.
7,000 to purchase. Is that correct?
so it's 3,500. You're right.
No, the cost to buy 200 additional clickers is $7,000.
Correct.
That, okay. And to purchase the 200 clickers and send our 300 degree program is $10,495.
Yep.
So it's about $3,500 to reprogram our clickers.
Correct. That's what I just said.
All right. It does seem rather expensive for a little device that you can hold in your hand. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and we're going to be more and more dependent upon these.
We
I'm
really
sorry,
are.
I couldn't read that,
no,
Don.
no, I don't agree that we're going to be dependent upon that. We have survived for years and years with little stickers going up. So we've done just fine. But yeah, I can see where people who may not want to express their opinion on voting have an out to push a button as opposed to yaying or naying something. But it is expensive. But that it is what it is, and if that's what we need to move forward, that's great.
All right, do I have a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion that we, I believe it's option C, is to purchase an additional 200 clickers and to send the 300 that we have to be reprogrammed for a total of $10,495, and that we will share with Harvard their clickers if we need extra capacity.
May I interrupt before you go through with that? The
Sure.
the very next page, I've added some items that, there's a typo on there too, sorry. I added some items that were recommended by the IT manager in Stowe, that he recommended for having a meeting that could potentially extend to multiple rooms, because there is potential that we will have attendance greater than the capacity of the auditorium at the high school.
Mhm.
So in order to have a meeting using the clickers in multiple locations, we would need to have cabling and additional antennas. So if you look at the next page, the number is 12,404.82, which is the entire ask from the ARPA funds.
So it's 10,495 plus this for a total of 12,480.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult with, to know if we're gonna need that extra stuff.
I don't think so, Bob. I think we're clearly going to, well, I should say clearly, I strongly believe that we're going to be beyond the capacity of the auditorium and that we're going to need an auxiliary room, and we're planning for the gym. And put it this way, if we don't purchase this, we won't be able to support a satellite area.
Yeah.
And
I believe we're going to have a big turnout for the special town meeting in the fall for the high school.
I agree.
So we might as well get prepared for it.
Would you like to revise your motion?
I'll say what I said before, but I'll make the motion on the second page with the extra stuff for 12,404.82.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Stan,
All right.
Brian,
yes.
I am a yes also.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is percolation testing on town-owned properties going to auction. And is Don, are you going to start that, or is Michelle going to start that?
I'm just going to frame it by saying you've got the list of the 5 properties in your packet. Michelle has done considerable work and research on this, and I'm just going to let Michelle give you a quick overview, and she can answer any questions that you may have. There she is.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Here I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So it was recommended to us by Paul Zikos, who is our auctioneer that we have hired and entered into a contract with to auction off these properties, that we get them perk tested. He said that doing something like that can increase the property value or the potential to get an additional $30,000 for each lot. So I've done a lot of research. I've worked with Rebecca. I've just met with Bill Brookings so that we could go over each property to see if there was anything that would blatantly push one of them out. Now, I started with 8 properties and I whittled it down to 5 because one of them went to DPW because they're going to do a potential cemetery extension. So they took that because that's one of the first things that I have to do is I have to offer up any properties before I go to auction to town departments to see if they want them. And that property in question was actually Harold Brown originally wanted it. That's how long we've owned it. So that's what happened with that one. One of the ones off of Main Street that is up at the town common, we would have needed permission from bordering landowners because it's landlocked, and we did not get it. So that one had to come off the table because there's nothing that you can do to it because you can't access it. And conservation is interested in that one anyways. And then the other one was 100% wet and unbuildable. So we're down to 5. And these 5 do have the potential, as long as they perk test, to be buildable. And that is extremely, would make it more likely that we would be able to get something for these properties. So I am asking for ARPA funds to pay for that. It's approximately $3,500 per lot for a total of $17,500.
And the Main Street lot is where?
Let me look.
I imagined it was the piece of property behind the town common, but it's not.
Nope. The Main Street property that's up for auction is next to the parsonage that just sold.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's across from town hall, basically.
All right.
Yep.
Stan, Brian?
No, I have no issues. But I think it's a great idea. Now, are there other properties that we are in the process of auctioning that already have been perk tested?
So one of the properties way back was perk tested and was approved, but then apparently, and this is one of the Ed Plant ones, apparently one of the neighbors saw a potential spring. So Bill Brookings went out and looked at it, and they did see a spring. So there ended up being a lawsuit, and then nothing happened after 2001. Some of the lots kind of changed a little bit. So right now they're not like it was back then. And he stopped paying taxes on this one lot, and it's 6.5 acres. It's very oddly shaped. But both Rebecca and Bill seem to think that it's definitely a property that should be perk tested.
Are there any others that you want to do this with, or is that this is a complete list?
That's a complete list. That's a complete list for tonight's ask. There may be a future ask, but not for tonight.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I have no problem with if we can get upwards of $30,000 more per lot by spending $3,500. I think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
My question was just around the estimate, Michelle, of
Mhm.
is it just an average of 3,500 per parcel? Does the cost to perk test vary based on the size of the plot? And it's just
Yes.
overall we're thinking it's going to be like, are all those plots approximately the same size?
Nope.
Okay.
So that's a very good question, Brian. So one of these lots could be more, and some of them could be less. So we have to pay Neshoba $425. And then I got an estimate from Brandon Duchamp through Christopher Rogers that it could cost anywhere around $2,000 to $2,500. So the $3,500 is a little bit inflated because I am worried about, especially that one that's 6.5 acres.
Mhm.
And it's also my understanding that whatever funds we don't use, we can reallocate. So I'm happy about that. But I am worried about a couple of those that it's going to require more than the average because it will require more equipment and more people.
Okay.
And that will be more money.
Okay, that's fine.
Excellent question.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with spending the money.
All right. Could I have a motion on the percolation testing?
I'll make a motion that we authorize, Don Lowe and Michelle Carlisle to spend the $3,500 per parcel, or estimated $3,500 per parcel, for the list of the properties, for perk tests that are on the list that we have in our packet this evening.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm a yes also. Next up, there are some issues
Thank you.
around.
Thanks, Michelle. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night,
All right, thank you,
gentlemen
Michelle.
Good night.
and ladies.
Next up are some waste oil disposal fees. That's Randy.
Good evening. Thanks
Good evening.
for having me this evening. So yeah, we have some cleanup to do around we've got a lot of accumulated waste oil around the shop that we've accumulated over many years. Needs to be removed. It's not usable on our waste oil furnace. So I went to the state contract and found a vendor that does this type of work. They came out, looked at what we had, gave us an estimate to do the waste characterization. They have to take samples of each tank and test it to see if it's all waste oil or if there are other contaminants within that oil, and then ultimately to remove the material. As part of our operations, dealing with these barrels of waste oil and transferring them to the tanks in the building for the heating oil, we had some spillage in the parking and on the side of the building that we need to be removed. And because of everything, the volume and the spills under the Mass Contingency Plan, the town needs to hire an LSP to observe the removal.
Randy, I think you dropped out.
We lost you.
Your name is still up, but we can't hear anything you're saying.
No.
Can you hear us, Randy?
I was under the screen, my screen. I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm not sure where I was when signal went out.
You were
But
talking
anyway,
about the
we have to
LSP.
hire a LSP to the removal and to also assist us in removal of the soils that are impacted by this storage of this material. So requesting a total of about $31,300 to be appropriated from and made available from ARPA funds. I do like to caveat it though that this is our estimate as of today. If the waste characterization finds that there's something in the oil that changes the characteristics and disposal of the product, it could change in the upward position.
Randy, a quick question. If you're having this issue with waste oil, are you going to accept waste oil moving forward or no?
Right now, we're not accepting any at the present time. We've posted signs. We were accepting it from residents and others. And right now, we're not accepting any until we get this whole situation straight and get a better system of dealing with it. There are some regulations on the utilization of our waste oil furnaces that we are not currently meeting, that we're going to need to meet. I was not aware of them. I was made aware of them by the company that came out to do the sampling. So more than likely, we won't be accepting any waste oil from other entities other than what's generated at the town garage.
Okay.
Okay.
Residents can also, they can bring the waste oil to either to Devon's and or they can bring it to Devon's or they can return it to their place of purchase. Wherever they purchase oil by state law, they have to take it back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, this seems like something that needs to be addressed.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
not going to get simpler by putting it off.
Yep, I'm fine with it.
Brian, any questions?
Nope.
No, I mean, I was surprised that it's $10,000 for the LSP, but that's apparently what the going rate is. So
I'm still waiting for a proposal from the company, but it's gonna be a time and expense based. I don't think it'll be totally 10,000, but it also gives me some additional flexibility should the characterization show up, material, then I won't have to come and do a second ask if I've got money built into the current budget.
Yep.
Under that one item.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine.
All right, could I have a motion on using ARPA funds for waste oil disposal?
I'll make a motion that we approve DPW Director Randall Hecklin's request for a proposal for waste characterization and removal, soil disposal, and LSP services in regards to the existing waste oil that is at the Bolton transfer station.
I second.
Roll call, Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
I
and I'm a yes also. All right, thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy. It's not the transfer station, it's the high garage.
Well, yeah, it's all one big family. We know where it is. Thank you.
Just want to make that connection. Thank you, everybody. Everybody.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
I'm glad you can understand him, Stan, because he was breaking up on my screen.
If you could have heard him, you would have heard him say, thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Randy.
I heard something very different and directed to Bob directly, but that's okay.
Next up, request from Bolton Access Television to release funds in the amount of $25,856.77. Nikki McGashey. Nikki, how are you?
Maybe not so good. We can't hear her.
Nikki, you there?
Are you guys?
I see your name on the screen. I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
Significantly.
I know breaking up is hard to do, but you're breaking up.
Let me go switch.
There you go.
Oh, got me. All right there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sounds better.
Sorry, guys. I'm on both my phone and computer, and streaming at the same time, so it's a little messy.
Okay. Just give us an update on what's going on with Bolton Access Television.
Yeah. So we're in a super busy season. Graduation is on Sunday, which is one of our biggest events of the year. People can get of the ceremony either via DVD or USB if they go visit our website. And then we've got a concert on Monday, and then we're going to live stream the school building committee on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. And then there's the fire muster next weekend. So super busy week.
Where's the fire muster this year?
It's going to be at the high school.
Oh, okay.
So it's rotating this year.
All right, good. Any questions from Brian or Stan?
No. Other than the amount of money has gone down a little bit, Nikki. So is that you're seeing that as a general trend?
Yeah. So it's actually, knock on wood, in Bolton, we've had smaller decreases than many of the other towns around us, which might have to do with the fact that Comcast is really the only game in town for But yeah, I mean, everybody is trending down as people cut the cord, that decreases our revenue. So it's
Yep.
technology is marching on.
No, I hear you. All righty, well, if no one has any other questions, I will, make a motion to approve the request from Bolton Access Television to release funds, PEG funds in the amount of $25,856.77 for Q1 operating expenses.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call, and this time we'll start with Brian,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and I'm a yes also.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, Nikki. Doing a great job. Appreciate it.
Next up is our town administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, a continuation of the discussion of my FY24 goals. We put the list back in the packet that I submitted last time. The board discussed different things that they would like to add to it, add to my goals for next year, but I don't think you took a final vote on my goals. And I know later in the meeting, you'll be discussing next steps for board goals for 24. But I guess that I would suggest that the next step would be the board agree on what it is that you would like to propose to me to take on for additional goals for next year. Basically ended up being my mission, should I choose to accept it, which I always do, but I think you need to finalize your addition to this.
All right, Brian, did you have something to add to this list?
Yeah, I mean, this one relates to something that is also a potential board goal, but I would be interested in having us try to resume in-person meetings at some point. And I know that if we were to do that, it obviously would affect you and other staff and things like that. So I guess I'd be looking for your input on that and when the timing might be right. I mean, I have reasons for why I think it would be good to get back in the habit of doing some more in-person meetings, but I know that it's also, we've gotten used to this, the current system, and there are certainly advantages to it. So anyway, I'm open to feedback on that, of course, but that is one thing I wanted to mention.
Well, we can certainly talk about that, but if we go back to in-person meetings, then the whole notion of how we operate currently with Zoom and resident participation falls apart. You can't have an in-person meeting and have it the same way as we're doing right now with everybody being able to see everyone. We won't be able to see individual residents, and they won't be able to see each of us. They'll be able to see a static image. So I'm not necessarily sure why it's important that we go back to him. I mean, it's nice for us. That's great to get together, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody else. So I'm not sure what the real benefit is. And maybe you can articulate that, Brian.
Well, let me jump in and give Brian two things to respond to or not. From my convenience perspective, meeting in person or meeting by Zoom, I'm indifferent. I think there are advantages to doing it in person. As far as participation goes, I believe that the technology is available to do, I believe they're called hybrid meetings, where the main participants are in a room, but other people, residents can participate by Zoom, and we'll see everybody live and all that stuff. But that involves an investment in technology, screens, monitors and stuff like that.
Yep.
I think anecdotally, I've talked with Don Lowe about this a couple of times over the past year or two. Anecdotally, most towns are seeing, and I think we've seen the same thing, an increase in citizen participation using the Zoom. I don't want to forego that. So I would be willing to participate in a hybrid meeting if we can work out the technical issues.
Perhaps the goal could be worded as such that I have to come back, in a reasonable period of time with a report that assesses the pros and cons and the incremental expense of doing that. So we could place it all. I could place it all in front of the board, and then you could work from that to talk about how you'd like to proceed.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I was going to give you a chance to react to both things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in favor of more participation in these meetings. I think the main benefit that I see to in-person meetings is, quite frankly, when the stakes of a conversation go up, I think that communication is better when you're in person. I don't think that communication always works out great via Zoom, especially for some of the most important conversations we'll be having. So I just wanted to explore the possibility of having those sort of face-to-face in person, but not at the risk of losing people for, their participation. And of course, there could be a cost in order to pull off a hybrid, but I don't know that we have the information to be able to make a decision yet. So that would be helpful to have.
Yep, no, that's great.
So would the proper goal for Don be to prepare a proposal to migrate to hybrid meetings?
Yeah, or even just as a first step to see if there are other towns of our size that are doing that, and maybe collect from them the information on the cost. But yeah, a proposal along those lines would be good.
Does that sound reasonable, Don?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Stan, do you have something to propose?
No, I think I think there is something that Don and I have been discussing for quite some time that may materialize as a goal. I'm not at liberty at the moment to discuss what that is, seeing whether it eventually comes to fruition, but that will be, if it does, it will be a significant effort by all of us. So I think I'll table that until that one is something that we might be able to bring forth.
Okay. I would like to propose that the town administrator prepare a guide on gifts to the town. What kinds of gifts must the select board accept? What kinds of gifts can be accepted by conservation or Parks and Rec or any other department, such things as that. I think it seems pretty haphazard to me about when the select board has to get involved in accepting a gift and when it doesn't. So I think the select board and the administration and the other committees and boards would benefit from a written policy that lays that out.
I agree. I think that'll be helpful all the way around. I actually thinking this might be one that I could knock off pretty quickly. I started doing some initial research, and I found that the research might be a little more entertaining than I thought it would be. So, but I think it's definitely something that would be beneficial to everyone.
Okay, so does anybody have any other changes?
Nope.
If we keep it at that, we'll keep me in single digits this year, as opposed to what I had just now. So, but I think
All
that's
right.
all good.
So should we have a motion to set the town administrator goals for fiscal 24 on the 9 identified tasks? That's 7 that were on the list prepared and the 2 that were suggested tonight.
So moved.
Second,
All right, roll call, Brian,
aye.
Stan,
Aye.
I'm a yes also.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next, update on the OEMS waiver for the cadet EMT program. I just wanted to highlight the fact that the waiver was renewed with no problems at all. The process that was worked out last year, thanks to the incredibly hard work done by Representative Hogan, has resulted in a nice, smooth process where it's part of the recertification of the ambulance, basically. You know, the ambulance, the state comes out every year and make sure that we're that the ambulance is where it needs to be, and it's all part of that. So it really was a seamless process this year, and I have no reason to believe that it won't be going forward. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that, and that express my thanks to the state, and especially Representative Hogan for that, as this is just really, really good news that what was put together last year is working.
That's great.
And
It's good.
and then finally, and again, I do this once in a while, it's not on the agenda, but it's an FYI. I learned just a day or two ago that our auditors, as part of our annual audit, for the third consecutive year, we are not receiving a management letter. So we have no audit points, no audit findings of any kind. So that's 3 years in a row, no audit findings. And if, in case anybody's wondering, this is a pretty new auditing firm. We had used the same auditing firm for years, and I thought it was time for a fresh set of eyes, and these folks were brought in. So I just want to just praise our treasurer, Kristen Noel, and our town accountant, Ninotchka Rogers. They are our finance team, a two-person finance team. We've got 3 clean audits and a AAA bond rating. And that speaks volumes of the work they do. The AAA bond rating also, and I'll say it again, advisory certainly played a role in that as well. But so it's a team effort, but it's just all good news, and I'm extremely happy to let you know that.
No, it's very good. It's good to know we're operating at that level.
So that's all I have for this evening, unless anybody has any questions or comments for me.
No? Okay, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Next is select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
Not for me tonight, nope.
No, okay. Any future agenda items people would like to bring up?
I mentioned one last week. We'll wait till we have the June 14th school building project review. I guess number 7 it is. I will be suggesting an agenda item after that one.
Okay. Next, we started discussing this last meeting 2 weeks ago. And this is to accept the provisions of Chapter 269, providing a one-time additional 2%, excuse me, cost of living adjustment for through the Worcester Regional Retirement System. There were some questions raised, and we needed before we could discuss it properly. So Don, you want to walk us through what you found?
Yes, in your packet, Kristen Noel provided detail behind it. I think it really speaks for itself. And as she said, this is an expense that will not hit us until FY 2026, and the resulting increase at that time is estimated to be $10,733.58. And if my memory is serving me correctly, it requires a 2/3 vote of the member towns of the Worcester Regional Retirement System to implement.
So that, I guess that was one thing that I wasn't sure I was reading correctly about the material that Kristen sent. So in the bullet where it says the estimated increase in the FY26 payment to provide the additional 2% COLA is $2,376. And then below that, it talks about the town of Bolton's liability, 9 million, resulting in an increase of 10,733 beginning in FY 2026. So I just wasn't sure. Like the first time I read it, I was like, oh, is it just going up $2,300? But then it says it would be an increase of 10,733. So I didn't know if that 10,733 was the 2% COLA plus whatever other increases that they may be otherwise expecting in FY26. Do you know, Don? Am I just confused?
I can't answer that, Brian. I don't try to explain somebody else's numbers. If you have a question in the future, if you have a question like that, if you can let me know prior to the meeting, I can certainly have the answer for the meeting, but I'm not going to try to kind of guess at what she's trying to say there.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I guess I'll make a motion to accept the provisions of chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022 to provide a one-time additional 2% cost of living adjustment for the Worcester Regional Retirement System retirees retroactive to July 1st, 2022.
Second.
Roll call. Brian?
Yes.
Stan?
Aye.
I'm a yes also.
Thank you very much. We're going to need, Jenny, was it not certified minutes, but we're going to need some sort of attestation on letterhead signed by the chair. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll have a record of vote in the yellow folder for you gentlemen when you come in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have to execute the dog warrant in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 151A. Can you explain what that means to us, Don? And what it means to people in town?
Yes, it's the the select board's authorization for the animal control officer in working with the town clerk to cite people who have not had their dogs registered and allow for the process to go forward up to and including after some period of time, people that have still not licensed their dogs can be summoned and need to appear in front of the clerk magistrate in Clinton District Court for for fines for not having their dogs licensed. So this is an annual step in the process that the board needs to authorize.
Yeah, we kind of do this every year. Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions?
No, I'll make a motion that we execute the dog warrant in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 151A.
Roll call. Brian?
Yes.
Stan?
Aye.
And I'm a yes also.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure, but I think you may have skipped over the FY24 Select Board goals discussion.
Oh, you're right. I did. Sorry. That was not intentional. Let's go to that now. I think the way we left it, we were trying to find a date where we could all meet. Have we been successful on doing that?
No, I don't think so. So we may have to just do it through these meetings.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to address along these lines tonight?
Well, I guess maybe one thing, I've been thinking about this, and I know that Brian expressed an interest in having a Saturday meeting, and I believe it's going to be difficult for me to find a Saturday in the long term. I may be able to find one in the short term. But since Brian brought this up, I'd like to hear again what Brian thinks he is looking for as far as select board goals. Because in the grand scheme of things, the select board does not control any of the other elected boards. Long range planning is already being dealt with. So other than like appointing liaisons to other boards and that kind of stuff, what in your mind are you thinking about as far as either categories of goals or what you're looking for in terms of goal setting? Because a lot of what we do is reactive as opposed to, I mean, as I mentioned before, there may be one or two things that will be coming before us that could be fairly significant, but we're not there yet. But maybe since you brought this up, where is your head at relative to what you're thinking about?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think really two basic buckets. So one is there may be things where it would make sense for us to be more proactive than reactive. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. I thought you two might have some sense of what those things are. I mean, I have a couple ideas. I think things related to the school, it's helpful for us to be proactive. And I think liaisons are maybe one way of doing that. So I wanted to talk about whether we wanted to have some sort of system. And then the other thing revolves around, I guess, public participation and also our own standards of conduct as a board. I've looked around and a lot of select boards have formal codes of conduct, and maybe we have one and I'm so new, I just haven't seen it yet, but it just talks about how we interact with town employees, like the way we conduct our meetings and the way we interact with other volunteers and things like that. I just think it might be helpful to either have one or talk about having one.
Yeah, I mean, that might not be a bad idea. I mean, I think, what was it, Southborough done? What was the town that had a whole issue in terms of codes of conduct not that long ago?
I'm not certain if it was Southborough or not. It might have been, but I don't want to claim it was Southborough, but it was,
Southborough had the issue with the
open meeting law.
the open meeting law, yeah.
And so I thought it was Southborough, but I wasn't positive. And that was an exchange between a board member and an audience member, and then an extended exchange, I guess, during a brief recess during the meeting, which I think they did have a code of conduct, and there were allegations that the code of conduct was violated during the meeting as well. So I agree with Brian. I think a code of conduct can certainly be helpful. Another thing along those lines, and just something to think about when it's not a problem, is to revisit. There's a policy, there's a board policy from years ago. I think it goes back to prior to my time, that gets to audience participation. And I don't remember much of the details of it, but also I believe that we don't have, as the select board doesn't have a policy on time limits for public comment, which can come in very handy. Yeah. If someone begins to filibuster, if you will.
Yeah.
So a policy that would address that, I think, could also be very helpful to the board.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I would agree. I would agree on that.
I think you're referencing the Visitors Code of Conduct that was approved on May 7th, 2020. And I can send that over to the 3 select board members.
Okay, I didn't even remember that was updated. I thought it was, so yes, I have been here since prior to 2020, so I did forget that, but it's always good to review things such as that and perhaps update them.
I have something of a different nature that I think requires leadership from the select board to accomplish. Of course, the select board has to agree it's something worth accomplishing. And that is, I think that that we should look at, in conjunction with the advisory committee, establishing a plan for how much we intend to borrow every year for several years into the future. And because right now our debt is done haphazardly, and we know that there's a lower limit to how much we get in free cash every year, that there's an upper limit, and there's a spot that's pretty reliable in the middle. And I think for budgeting purposes and for capital planning purposes, we should have a plan as to how much debt we're going to incur going forward. We don't have to tie it to specific projects, but as a matter of policy, I think we should develop one. I don't think that this policy could be successfully implemented and developed without the leadership of the select board. I would also say that, in my opinion, the discussions we're having about buying and paying for such things as fire trucks in the high school would have a different component to them if there were already in place a plan of how much the town was going to incur for debt year to year. So that's something I think the select board should address.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Bob, because to your point, we keep getting hit from left and right field with requests for capital, which does incur debt. And we're gonna get hit with potentially a real big one this September, which I don't believe the residents fully understand the magnitude of what that's going to mean to them. So yeah, I think we need to. Unfortunately, having that discussion now is not gonna help in the short term. But I think, potentially in the long term is to what this town can financially deal with, and not only incurring debt, but I think we need to have a mechanism to replenish the stabilization fund, to grow that a little bit in case we have some unforeseen expenses, which I think over time those things are gonna pop up much more frequently, I think, as years to come. So I think that's a very worthwhile discussion to have.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. So we're back to how do we want to have these discussions? My take on this is we should set aside special meetings specifically for this. If the in-person is too difficult to do, then it'll be on Zoom. But I think these are very broad conceptual issues, and they're going to always take up a lot of time. And I don't think it's fair to put everybody who's on an agenda on any given regularly scheduled select board meeting to have to sit through all of that. So my take is what's your reaction to that? That we should do these on Zoom and we should have them be separate from our regularly scheduled meetings?
I think that would make sense because we have the people's business at these regularly scheduled meetings, and we can't wait. We can't allow people to wait for stuff. So yeah, that's fine. We can do some extra meetings, whether that's on Zoom or whether it's a weekend or whatever. But I think there's going to be some difficulty, at least on my part, in the short term for a weekend. But we can figure out a schedule.
Okay. So let me ask Don to work with us on our schedules and schedule 3 of these meetings between now and September, I guess every 3 weeks or something like that, we should have one of these meetings would be my guess at the start. But if we could schedule the first three, my schedule is pretty tight, close in. Once I get into July, my schedule loosens up. And the request for having these meetings ended in June. So July, and beyond that, I'm more flexible than I am between now and the end of the month.
Could I just add, like, when it comes to these extra meetings, I personally don't think we would, I mean, I could take minutes. I don't think we need Jenny or Dawn necessarily to take their time to be there. I don't know if you both agree with that, but I wouldn't want to ask them to have to attend extra meetings for us to have these discussions.
Well, we could set as ground rules that we don't vote on anything during these meetings. That we have a discussion, we have a consensus as to what we will bring back to a regularly scheduled meeting, and that's where we would have the votes.
Yep, that's fine.
Are you okay with that, Don, Jenny?
I'm delighted. I've already anticipated 2 summer meetings, and I don't know how flexible I could be based on planning. And I think the 3 of you getting together, whether you do it in person, which obviously would be posted, or on Zoom, which would also be posted. I think you would be very productive with just the 3 of you really just going over whatever thoughts you have. So that works fine for me. And I'll be happy to try to help coordinate those meetings.
Okay. And let's have those meetings before we do the code of conduct, just so
But Don, we're going to ask you to cater those meetings for us, though. So
all right.
Oh.
So
That's a new goal.
we'll ask Don to schedule 3 of these meetings. Is he okay with that?
that's fine. That's
All
fine.
right. Thank you.
May I ask one clarifying question? Are you looking
Certainly.
at, are you having a stated preference for maintaining your Thursdays, or are you going kind of free range and looking at, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, Saturdays? What sort of structure are you looking at?
I'm willing to do a weekend meeting. Again, so long as I don't have another commitment lined up already. So if other people's schedules are very tight during the week, I'll do a weekend meeting, or a weeknight meeting is, again, depending on what the schedule is.
Brian, did that doodle poll that you sent out come up with any hits amongst the 3 of you?
I think if I just extended it out, like through the rest of the summer, we could easily find options that way. And if we're going to do 3 meetings, we could just do like 90-minute blocks and maybe not even use all 90 minutes. But
The doodle poll, I'd forgotten about that. The doodle poll is probably the most efficient way to do it.
All right. Well, Brian, you want to extend out a new doodle poll?
sure, yeah, I'll put a bunch of different like weeknight options, a couple weekend options, and I'm sure we can find 3 that work.
That sounds good.
Great.
That
Thank you,
sounds
Brian.
good. There's a plan.
All right.
And we've
There
taken
you
one
go.
fiscal 24 goal off of Don's list already, so. Back to our agenda. Next up is a discussion on the signboard and the policy discussion, the banner policy, and the message board in front of the town common.
Hold on a second. Did we? I don't know if I forgot, but did we vote on the warrant, the dog warrant?
I have a note that you did.
I believe we did, yes.
Okay, totally forgot. Thanks.
To be honest, I think you did, but I'm not sure there was a second on it.
All right,
All right, I'll remake the motion as to get the dog warrant in accordance to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 151A.
Second.
roll call. Brian,
Yes.
Stan,
Aye,
and I'm a yes also.
there you go.
Thank you.
So regarding the messaging policies for the banner policy, the town common signboard, and the Houghton Building signboard. I plagiarized some of Brian's work. Brian sent me some thoughts not long after our last meeting, and I expanded on it. And also, we tried to expand upon what already existed in the policies for the Houghton Building and the banner policy. So what you have there is my best cut at what I think you're trying to accomplish, and hopefully it's at least a good starting point for you to discuss this.
I thought they looked good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't have any questions or
Yeah.
comments. I thought they looked good.
My one question, Dawn, was I noticed, I think in all three of them, it's the town administrator or the select board, and that can do the approval. And I'm assuming that's partially for timing reasons. Like there may be a request that comes in that wouldn't fall during a week when we're scheduled to meet. So it would make sense for you to be able to approve that if it otherwise complies with the policy.
Correct. For example, for as long as I can remember, the banner policy has said the town administrator or the select board, but I don't think a banner request has ever gone to the select board. I just deal with them as soon as they come in. And the Houghton Building is pretty much the same way. We've always dealt with that signboard on an as needed basis. People come in and want to get things done. The new one is the town common signboard, and I think the key there is that it has to be for an event that's already been approved by Parks and Rec. And I think with that, we can be pretty efficient with that too. But just allowing for the possibility that something may need select board approval, even though I can't even give you a good example right now. I thought there would be times where that should be added.
that's fine. No, looks good.
Oh, thank you.
All right, do I have a motion on the three policies?
I will make a motion to approve the signboard, message board, and banner policies as provided to us this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Brian,
Yes.
Stan,
Aye?
and I'm a yes also. Could I ask the town administrator if it's possible to gather all the different policies that the select board has into a booklet or a PDF pamphlet that's indexed? Because I don't know where to look for all this stuff, and I have no idea how the average person would find out all this stuff. I have seen on other town websites where they have PDF copies of all policies and things like that. Ms.
Oh.
Jenny has a statement.
I do.
Just use
So-
the raise hand function.
In the last couple of years, I actually did compile all of the policies that I found on the computer from current and past, and they exist right now on a intranet portal. But I definitely could look into making that have a location on the intranet that is accessible by everybody. There's no reason that I can think of not to.
Yeah, if we could do that, I think that would be helpful to this board and again, to other boards and things like that.
And
Thank
just to be clear, Jenny did that on her own initiative. I did not ask her to do that. So another example of how invaluable Jenny is.
Thank you, Jenny. It's very, very nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, next up is approved bills and payroll warrants, W23-23 and W23-23A. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Brian?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye?
I'm a yes also. I understand there are no minutes for approval tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, if there are any other issues we need to discuss? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call, Brian,
yes.
Stan,
Aye.
and I'm a yes also. So thank you very much. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you, Don.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Judy.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.